Good day, everyone, especially to all the women watching this magisterial lecture entitled Women on Top, the Career Development Journey of Filipina Business Executives in the Philippines. This session is quite unique as I am privileged to share the inspiring stories of our Filipina CEOs and their career journey into the top role of their respective organizations. So if you're female, who dreams of wearing a business suit or occupy a corner office located at the BGC or Ayala, a career professional attempting to break the proverbial glass ceiling, or a parent with children who wish to have a corporate life, then I hope you all find inspiration in the stories I'm about to tell. I teach entrepreneurship, marketing research, and management courses to college students at the John Gokongwei School of Management. In my classes, I usually start the session with a pop quiz to get everyone involved and ready for today's lesson. So, for today's lecture, let's assume that we are all in the Zoom class and I've just announced a quiz. Are you ready? So you can type a response in the chat box or you may raise your hand. Question 1. What comes to mind when you hear the word CEO? In a recent talk I gave to an organizational development and human resource forum, these were the top 3 responses. First, leader. Second, visionary. And not surprisingly, male. Are your answers consistent with these on the screen? Now, as a follow-up question, question 2. In 1 or 2 words, how would you describe the Filipina CEO? Please type your response in the chat box, or you may again raise your hand. In the same OD forum, their third answer was brilliant and rare. Their second response was uncommon, and their top answer was gaining recognition. When I was pursuing my PhD in leadership studies a couple of years back, I also had the same questions specific to women occupying the top leadership position of an organization, especially when I read studies such as a UNESCO 2017 report that gender inequality in leadership positions still persists globally. A Grant Thornton International 2018 report that women in Japan occupy only 5% of senior management positions, while an average of 23% are from the Asia-Pacific countries. However, in the same 2018 study, what caught my attention was that the Filipina women executives comprise 46.58%, double than the Asia-Pacific average for senior leadership roles. And thus, for my PhD dissertation, I investigated on this phenomenon where Filipinas broke career stereotypes in a region where men dominate leadership roles. To provide a perspective on how this research was done, in-depth interviews were conducted among 7 Filipina CEOs. Industries covered in this study were considered male-dominated, where women constituted 25% or less in total employment. These industries include accounting, automotive, aviation, banking, financial, and media, where women generally find difficulty in advancing or in leading. A profile of the participants is as follows. The 7 participants were at the time occupying positions of either chairperson, chief executive officer, president, or country head of the firm. They must have at least 5 years of experience in topmost leadership position. All were born in the Philippines, whose ages range from 45 to 60, with a median age of 55. Their civil status varied from being married, divorced, separated, or widowed. All were college graduates, with some having master's or graduate degrees, while others have attended advanced management programs abroad. Most have 2 or 3 kids, aged 11 to 32. All were Catholics by faith. 3 key questions were asked during the interviews. 1, please share the story of how you became a business corporate executive. 2, what were the challenges, barriers that you have experienced and conquered in your journey as a woman leader? And 3rd, what are the factors that contributed to your success? The results of this research found 3 key phases which track the career development journey of the Filipina CEOs. They are as follows. 1, growing up years. 2, career advancement in raising a family. And 3, becoming and being the CEO. Please allow me to discuss each phase with an accompanying direct quotes from the participants. In the first phase, the growing up years, there were enablers such as parent support and an equal opportunity culture. For students, especially if you're female watching this lecture, or parents with young children, this may be of interest because, according to CEO1, she said, I was fortunate to be raised by parents who really put emphasis in doing everything well. They never said that you can't do anything because you're female. While CEO2 stated that she witnessed Korean and Japanese women walking behind men and stated that in the Philippines, being a woman is not a disadvantage and that there is no glass ceiling for women. Still, in the growing up years, our participants recall the challenge, which is the perception that women are just in charge of the households. CO5 recalled, my mother always made sure we knew how to cook, knew how to do all the household chores, which the boys were spared of. Oh, I hated it. I just hope by sharing this, I don't get into trouble with our mothers. While CO3 remarked that in our Philippine culture, women, however successful, are ultimately judged based on how successful their children turned out to be. Unlike for men, who are judged positively for as long as they are able to provide for the needs of their family. We now move to the second phase, which is career advancement and raising a family. For this part of the lecture, it may be of interest to those career professionals who may be searching for an ideal company with programs and initiatives that will ensure their career progress. An enabler for career advancement is career pathing and diversity. CO7 fondly recalled that in her previous company, they value diversity. Human resource actually had a KPI of how diverse the team is. So it was not intentional that there was a mix not only of gender, but also our background. CO4 also expressed gratitude by saying, I owe it to my former company because they make it their objective. You do cross-functional. There's career pathing. They do this intentionally by looking into your potentials. Now, as career individuals, with a young family, a prevailing challenge for our participants was the expectation from them as mothers. CO1 recalled with guilt that as a parent, while your children were growing up, you're always doubting yourself. Are you spending enough time with them? How will they turn out when they are older? However, she adds that it's not so much the time you spend with them, but what they've learned from you in the time you were with them. CO3 expressed frustration when she said the ideal typical mother would teach her child and prepare sample exams. On your part as a working mother, this may be frustrating, You will likely be doing these study sessions at 9 in the evening. You're tired while your child is sleepy. We now move to the third and last phase, that of becoming and being the CEO. This will be of interest to everyone as our participants share their insights on the enablers and challenges that they had to face on their way to the top. There were two enablers. First, having an enlightened husband. CO6 happily shared a lot of support from a husband who's very secure and who's selfless. You need a partner who's very supportive because you can't do it on your own. The second enabler is having male mentors and role models. According to CEO1, my male boss took the time to talk to me because it was how you understood the culture of the firm, how they decide, and how they think. They spend time with you, and they shape your thinking. While CO5 explained, I learned a lot from my male mentor about managing people, about making hard decisions, and not panicking when things are about to go wrong. It's always stay calm. Think, there are always solutions. There were also several challenges in becoming and being the CEO. The first challenge is the limited representation in the boardroom. CO2 said that I'm in the board. I'm the only woman. It's still predominantly male. While CO7 offered a practical tip and said, to this day, I still stand out like a sore thumb because, well, I'm shorter than all of them. I have to bring my highest heels. And she laughs. I was the only lady in the entire team. The second challenge they had experienced and still continue to experience is the discrimination as women leaders. CO5 recalled that during a legal hearing, a male lawyer said, "So, miss, you're a CEO. What were your previous qualifications?" He was alluding to me having no experience, and I wanted to tell him, you know, if I was a man, you would never ask me that question. Would you ask, referring to a male competitor, what he was doing before he acquired the competitor company? But my lawyer was kicking me under the table and whispered just to stay calm, and she laughed. The third challenge is women not being seen as leaders. CO7 said, you really have to make that decision and get everyone behind you. That's important because sometimes they think, I'm a woman. CO3 also shared that generally there's a belief that the leader must be decisive and that the general bias is towards a male leader because this is the trait possessed by men. Interestingly, if a woman possesses said characteristics, then we start to tag her as Iron Lady. Negative, isn't it? So in my case, she said, I'm an Iron Lady. The fourth and last challenge in becoming and being the CEO is managing the husband's ego. CO7 sadly recalled that it became difficult when I became president because my husband would always accompany me in social functions. And people would ask him, so where are you connected? So what do you do there? And it's a little bit difficult for the man's ego because he was not CEO. So he'd start begging off on certain events, but we managed to cope by talking about it. We now examine the personal traits, characteristics, and behaviors that emerge when one is to become or when one is already a CEO. This is important for everyone listening here who is aspiring to become a CEO someday. First, spirituality. And second, being competitive but not ambitious. According to CO2, I am a prayerful person, and that helped me go through a lot of things even in my personal life. While CO6 shared that competition was very tough because we were number 5 and I was able to bring it to where it is now, the #1 position. Surprisingly, CEO1 recalled that I initially turned down the CEO position. So when I came home, I told my husband, my boss is asking me to consider it, and I don't want to accept it. So the next day, I went back and told my boss, I'm turning it down. He spent the whole next hour telling me all the reasons why I should accept it. The third and fourth characteristic and trait are speaking one's mind and having a can-do attitude. CO5 said that everyone knows that I'm outspoken. I speak out. So it scares some people because they say, you can get chewed out. While CO1 also said, I never said no when being given more and more accountabilities. The fifth trait is being accountable, and the sixth behavior is having an openness to learn and continually reinvent self. CO2 recalled that I don't think all the decisions I made were correct. But even if it turned out to be bad, I know that it was well-intentioned. While CO1 shared that you have to be willing to learn and try to be a quick learner. And she added, nobody is ever ready to be a CEO. You just learn along the way. This research proposed a model which summarized the career journey of Filipina CEOs. 3 phases, namely growing up years, career advancement and raising a family, and becoming and being a CEO, track the career progress of our participants. For each phase of the journey, our participants encountered enablers and challenges that either push them or bar them into the top. Cultural, organizational, and familiar factors emerge as contextual dimensions at each phase that our participants also needed to navigate in their journey. Consequently, the personal characteristics, behaviors, and traits of the participants surface as critical elements in said leadership journey. What a journey it has been. As a male researcher, it was truly a humbling and enlightening experience to hear the inspiring stories of our Filipina CEOs' journey to the top. I hope that you also have been inspired to follow in their footsteps as you aim for the top post. But before we end, as I would often do in my class, and this is of course just to test if the students have learned from the topic, let's have a quiz. So let's all assume that we're all in class and I just announced that we're having a quiz. Are you ready? In your chat box, you may send a response or you may raise your hand. Please answer this question. Give one recommendation that an organization can undertake to encourage more Filipinas to reach the top. Are your answers consistent with the top 3 responses given in my talk at the OD HR Forum? First, provide child care support system. Second, a program on diversity and inclusion. Third, leadership and mentorship programs. These responses were also consistent with the study's recommendation that first, top management may identify and form a talent pool of potential leaders that deliberately includes women whom shall undergo leadership trainings. Second, organizations may consider institutionalizing programs in mentoring, career pathing, and gender diversity with set targets for women. And finally, organizations can explore providing extensive support through child care programs and facilities for women. And so, reflecting on the challenges that confront our women CEOs and the gains they have made despite these, I think we should continue to develop more exemplars who can inspire the next generation of CEOs, that more women can shape corporate destinies and contribute to equal opportunity.